Kansas City. City of fountains, Paris of the plains, home of the first outdoor shopping center in America, some of the best barbecue in the entire world, the soccer capital of the United States, and a prohibition safe haven during the 1920s that led to the rise of jazz and crime bosses who built the foundations of the city, quite literally, some of which are still standing today. And finally, last but not least, home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City! Welcome to the Kansas City Real Estate Show. My name's Nick Massa. I'm a real estate advisor in Kansas City, and my goal with this show is just to help you make those critical real estate decisions with confidence. One of those decisions, you probably fall into one of two groups. Either one, you're from Kansas City and you clicked on it because you'd like to see what other people have to say, or two, you're thinking about moving to Kansas City, and I'd love to tell you all about the pros and cons of living in Kansas City. So if you do fall into that first group, you're from around Kansas City, go to the comments, let everybody else who's watching the video know your favorite and least favorite thing about Kansas City, and that way when they think about moving here, they can make the most informed choice possible. The first one, and you can think of this as a pro or a con, but there's certainly a divide in Kansas City, and that's should you live in Kansas or Missouri. I'll make a completely separate video about this, but I just want you to know Kansas City proper is in Missouri, and that's what creates the divide, Kansas versus Missouri. A lot of people will say on the Kansas side that the schools are better, the taxes might be higher, but the roads are better and the infrastructure overall is better. In Missouri, you've got the Royals, the Chiefs, all of the downtown nightlife, some of the best restaurants, and just the overall buzz of the city. The one decision you'll have to make if you are moving to Kansas City is where you're going to live. Are you going to live in Kansas or Missouri? And we'll resolve that issue in a second, but the first con is you're going to need a car. If you move to Kansas City, a car is an absolute necessity. There's a lack of public transportation. You will find transportation in several different places, but it's not super reliable, and it's certainly not widespread where you can get from any point in the city to another point in the city with ease. It's not what you're going to face. You're going to have to purchase a car, and that might be even more important than purchasing a home, depending on where you're at with finances and your priorities. But a car is an absolute necessity. The first pro, it's the flip side, is that once you've got a car, getting around becomes a lot easier, and whatever divide that there might be between Kansas and Missouri and which side you'd like to fall on, having a car eliminates most of the benefits of living on one side or the other. If you'd like to go to the Chiefs or a Royals game, it's as simple as getting in the car, even if you live in Overland Park, and taking a 30-minute drive over to the Chiefs Stadium in Missouri, right? Or if you'd like to go to the Kansas City Zoo, which of course is also in Missouri, again, it's just a simple drive, about 30 minutes or less. You're getting around most places in Kansas City. If you're from New York or Los Angeles or Dallas or Austin or Chicago or any other big city where there's a lot of traffic, you would think the traffic here that people complain about is a complete joke. There will be a little bit of traffic during their heightened rush hours. There will be very little standstill traffic. The only time you'll see it is if there's a wreck on I-35 or a wreck downtown. Otherwise, it's pretty smooth going, and as long as you optimize your schedule, you'll be in a good position. But it's very, very drivable. You can get from one place to another with relative ease. Pro and con number two, we're going to bunch these together as well, as the weather. We're going to do the con part of this first, which is it's so volatile. You can experience all four seasons, which is the pro of living in Kansas, is you get your fall, winter, spring, summer. But you can experience all of those seasons within 24 hours. It is obnoxious. You will go from hearing reports online about, there's going to be a blizzard, so many inches of snow, it's going to be difficult to drive around, and the next day you can wear shorts outside. This year, what we saw going into November was 60-degree weather, everybody's outside, sun's still shining, and all of a sudden, overnight, it plummets to 30 degrees, there are a couple of flurries of snow, and it's freezing outside. And it's that volatility is one of the biggest cons of living in Kansas City. If you like your fall, but you don't want it to last super, super long, and you like your winter, but you're over it once you get to February, or you like your summer, but the heat and humidity is just not for you, there is a change and you get some relief, and that fluctuation is good. It's just that volatility really hits a nerve with a lot of people around here, and I know that it is by far not the worst place ever, but look, the weather is very volatile, so just be prepared for anything in Kansas City. Tornadoes, I almost forgot. If you've seen The Wizard of Oz, and I know Kansas and the Midwest has this stigma of getting hit with all the tornadoes, and I've lived in Kansas City my whole life. We've seen like one blizzard in '04, and there have been a couple small tornadoes in cities outside of Kansas City, probably a little farther west towards the middle of the state of Kansas. But we've only had a couple scares, and those scares were not serious by any means. It was just get in the basement and turn the TV on so that you can see what's going on. But most of the time, not a huge cause for concern. One of the biggest pros about living in Kansas City, or the Midwest in general, is the people. They're nice, they're friendly, they're going to talk to you when you're in the line at the grocery store, or when you're in the line at the bank, or when you're walking the dog down the street, they're going to wave hello to you. People are very friendly, and that can be a little culture shock if you move here from one of the coasts, or you're living in a big city where life is very quickly paced and people are not going to give you the time of day to ask you how you are and how your day's going, but people are going to do that here. And that's part of what makes it such a great place to live. In Kansas City, you're going to find that people are very, very friendly. All right, if you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going to cover everything about Kansas City, especially the real estate. So if you're thinking of moving here, or you're interested to get an upper hand when it comes to buying or selling or building a home in Kansas City, or you're just interested in the Kansas City area, just hit the subscribe button so you see more of my videos. If you have any questions about buying, building, or selling a home here, my contact info is in the description. I'd be happy to help. I do have one confession, and I've lived here my whole life in Kansas City, and I'm a little biased. I'm certainly biased. I'm not going to hide that. I need your help. Go to the comments. Any other things that you can think of that you don't like about Kansas City, if you live here, let me know in the comments, because I'm out of ideas, and the rest of the video, we're going to cover the rest of the pros that I've got on my list. So one of the biggest pros is sports, both youth sports and professional sports. I know that Kansas gets a reputation if there's nothing fun to do, and that can be true, especially in February when it gets gross and ugly and nobody wants to be outside. But sports are a big deal in Kansas, especially right now in Kansas City when the Chiefs are doing so great. We'll see if they can make it to and win the Super Bowl this year. My fingers are crossed. Lots of sporting teams to root for. Okay, we've got KU basketball, the Chiefs, Kansas City Sporting, the Royals, the KC Current, which is a women's soccer team that recently came to Kansas City in the last few years, and all of those are growing. Like the Royals are moving their stadium downtown, KC Current's building a stadium where KC Sporting plays. Is the Legends. There's a big shopping center around that. So there's lots to do when it comes to sports. But one thing that you might not know about Kansas City is in the last 10 years or so, it has slowly and quietly become one of the soccer capitals of the entire country. There are so many youth sporting complexes, and with the rise of professional soccer across America, right? We've got all these players coming from European and Spanish and English countries, and they're coming into the United States. There's an increase in the popularity of the sport in Kansas, but especially youth sports. Parks, trails, and lakes. In Kansas, I know we already addressed the general stereotype that there's nothing to do here. We don't have mountains and we don't have beaches, but there is one thing that we have. Well, there are a couple, but one big thing. Around here, people say that they're going to the lake. Going to the lake is something that people do, most people do, maybe once a summer, but it sounds like everybody's going to the lake every single weekend, and that just doesn't happen. But there are some people who will do that, and this isn't like the lake that you're imagining that's just beautiful and just a scenic environment. This is like, a lake that's either in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, or it's a lake of the Ozarks. There's very little in between. People love to go to the lake, and that's a big part of the culture here, especially when it comes to Memorial Day or the 4th of July, etc. Any of those summer holidays, people are going to the lake. Now, there are so many parks and trails. There are dozens of places where you can go biking, and that's one of the benefits of Kansas City. We've got all these plains and a flat land, and we've put them to use. So if you're worried that maybe there's not enough to do in Kansas City, I assure you there certainly is. Here are a couple that not many people will talk about. Pickleball. It's spreading like wildfire. There are pickleball courts all over the place. Chicken and pickle locations and franchises popping up dozens of places in Overland Park, Kansas, downtown Kansas City, etc. It is growing rapidly, and because of how accessible pickleball is, I don't see an end to that in sight. Now, one last thing is that there are dozens of golf courses around here. If you are a golfer, there are a host of public and private golf courses, which you'll find on country clubs, and usually country clubs will have an initiation fee, and they'll have some recurring monthly fee, but dozens of golf courses to choose from all over the place, both in Missouri and Kansas. There's certainly no shortage of things that you can do for entertainment or outdoors in Kansas City. You just got to be creative and look in the right places. One thing that's very controversial is the barbecue. Yes, some of the best barbecue in the world. In the comments, let me know what's your favorite barbecue place in Kansas City. If you're not from Kansas City, I also like to hear your opinion. Let me know. Very controversial around here, but not everybody's eating barbecue like every meal. That's not a thing. There are dozens of other places that you can go. Downtown Kansas City is budding with other restaurants that are not barbecue joints that you can enjoy. So just wanted to mention that. We're gonna move on. The last, but certainly not the least, is the real estate. If you were to look at average home prices across the country, you're looking at about $455,000. average across the United States, which might sound pretty high because in Kansas City, you're looking at about $255,000. Now that's a big difference, right? That's a $200,000 difference. So one of the biggest benefits of living in Kansas City is that $30 million mansion in Bel Air, that house is probably only going to cost you maybe a million, maybe 2 million in Kansas. You're gonna get a lot more bang for your buck. Whether you're looking for a luxury new construction home that's right in the West Plaza, or if you're just looking to build a new home that's big enough for you and your family, or you're looking for an affordable home that's close to the city where you can commute to work without blowing your budget, or if you're looking for a fixer-upper to make your own and dabble in real estate investment, or if you're a landlord who's looking for several more doors to add to their portfolio, Kansas City has a little bit of everything. And one of the biggest benefits of Kansas City being in two different states is that you've got your choice of a lot of things, right? There's a lot of variety, and that's why it caters to pretty much anybody who would be interested in moving here. I know that was a little top heavy on the pros, but I don't have a lot to complain about when living in Kansas City. Like I said, I'm biased. I'm not going to hide it. I've lived here my whole life. So if you're seeing something that I'm not, by all means, take to the comments below and let me know. It would help out everybody else who's going to watch this video, who's maybe thinking about moving to Kansas City but isn't quite sure. The more input they get from you all, the easier it's going to be for them to make that choice. And if you are one of the people moving here and you've got questions, or you need somebody who's going to act as your boots on the ground, my contact info is in the description. I am here to help. Thank you all for watching the video. Be on the lookout for more. Hit the like if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of them. And I'll see you on the next one.